I don't even know where to begin. This is the peakiest peak that we've ever peaked in Star Wars, or I don't know. I don't know where this is going. There's no structure to this. I just got to talk about Andor. But I'm gonna start off, man. R.I.P. to Nemec, Lieutenant Gorn, Tarmin, the Donnies, everybody on Aldani, Kino Loy, and the Narkina 5 boys, all the prisoners. Tay, the banker, Lonnie, his family, Cinta, the Gormans, Ferrix, Salman Pack, Brasso, Marva, and a big RIP to the godfather of the rebellion, Luthen. We gotta say their names, man. We gotta say their names. I don't even know how to express what I'm feeling. This is some elite stuff on a level that I can't even comprehend. I talked last season about how elite it was, and then to follow up with something that surpasses it, it's insane. But all I really keep thinking about is how complete the story is, how complete the picture is. And of course, we got a lot of people that are going to say there's so much to explore and it's a huge universe. And yeah, I mean, there's nothing defined on the paper. If you call it a large galaxy, then it's a large galaxy. So yes, you can always make something up, but for me, the saga's done. This story is done, and I'm not sad about that. I mean, I am sad Andor is over, but the finale was so good that it just gave you such closure. And so that's probably one of the best things I could say is that not only figuring out how to top some excellent episodes this season, but how to make the finale meaningful when we know what's coming up. And now, I should never doubted them, because that was the whole debate about the show in general. How are you going to make a show that's a prequel to another prequel to some we already know where this is going? How can you make that compelling? And I'll stand by this to the end of my days. They should have called this Rise of the Empire or Rise of the Rebellion, and it probably would have did more numbers, to be honest with you. But either way, that's what we got. We got a show that was about so much more than Andor. Andor was just a representation. And so the finale was a microcosm of that, where it was like, how can you top this off? How can you do anything to make it feel like worth it and complete? And by the grace of the fantasy guys, they did it. They did it again. That finale made it feel so complete with closure. Somehow you got closure when you're one project away from the thing that kicks off the original trilogy. How do you do that? You do it with amazing writing, attention to detail, and just an absolute cohesive vision of the story you're trying to tell. Understanding it completely, not writing something that's cool, not having some cool scenes, not having one good moment of dialogue. No, having a complete vision of what you're trying to tell in the world that you're trying to tell it in. Because Tony Gilroy and them are not some fanboys of Star Wars. And so the respect that they gave it was insane. And all I keep thinking about again is the full picture. And I just want to talk about that real quick. And I have to say again, for me, when it's on the screen, like the big screen, quote unquote, up until, you know, recently, that's pretty much been my canon. Like, I'm not, no disrespect to people that read all this stuff, but I don't really care about the extended universe or all this fan fiction and all this extra stuff. For me, obviously, you got the movies, which is really what I kind of go by, and then some of these shows have added to some of the lore. So I'm sure there might be parts that people are screaming, "You forgot this," or "No, that's not right." That's whatever. Like, okay, yeah, it's there, but it's it's just not canon for me. That's all I can say. And at this point, we going back to the 70s. Everybody has their own canon. That's pretty much what I can say. But this is from my perspective. So we go back to essentially, I mean, we got a Sith, and they're the dark side of the Force. I won't even necessarily say evil. They're the dark side of the Force. They lean into those dark tendencies, and you got someone that's craving power on a scale that we really haven't seen before. And this person chooses to use manipulation in the political system to achieve that. So, despite kind of how we get there, the prequels essential, or episode 1 through 3, is essentially telling us that Palpatine takes over the Republic Senate and kind of becomes the emperor. Essentially, I wouldn't say martial law, but essentially he takes over as like the dictator. And along the way, the protectors, who if you want to call them protectors, police, whatever, they keep order. They're the people who are essentially, obviously, the light side of the Force, but they're the ones that are keeping order. We'll just say that. So they get completely undermined under their nose because they are essentially just too, I won't say proud, maybe arrogant. They're just too arrogant to really see what could possibly be happening against a Jedi, because it's just like, who would go up against us, right? And so it wasn't just a manipulation of the Senate, it was also the manipulation and the planning and conniving to undermine the Jedi Force, or not Jedi Force, but the I want to say Jedi Academy. What are they called? The Jedi? I don't know, but the Jedi, obviously. So then we get a bit of the prophecy, and Anakin kind of gets inserted into it, but just being the conniving person he is, Palpatine sets up a pathway where he could kind of get him on his side. But really, at the end of the day, you could see a world where, and we kind of do, but you can see a world where he only took out some Jedi and the Jedi were still going. But once he captures the Senate and once he's the Emperor, he could discredit the Jedi into disgrace and everything, and they could have easily been pushed underground, no authority, blah, blah, blah. And so even if he wasn't able to turn Anakin and execute Order 66 and kill all the younglings and like rip apart that whole thing, even if he didn't do that, he still would have achieved his goal to a certain extent, because obviously his goal was to not brutal force the galaxy into his control, but to use the political manipulation. And once he got that, then it was about finding some type of force that would be a iron hand to keep everybody in line, which obviously ended up being the Death Star. So even if you imagine a world where he didn't get Anakin, or he didn't again completely wipe out the Jedi, then he still could have went on with his plan. But he's just so good at conniving that he also got Anakin to become Darth Vader and become his enforcer. So that is essentially obviously the prequels. And then from there, the Jedi Order, there we go, that's what I was thinking of. The Jedi Order is gone. It is completely gone as an order, but there's still a few Jedi here, and they continue to keep making up new Jedis or whatever. But still, as far as we know, they're scattered, few and far between, mainly Yoda and Obi-Wan Kenobi, who go into hiding to protect the children of Anakin, right? All right, so then we go through that whole years of the Empire really building itself up, and then we get to something like Andor, where they are they're pretty much high on the hog. They're bloated and fat, and they're arrogant now. They attracted these power-hungry people. They started to enact fascism around the galaxy. They started to extend their power, and their operation, to me, gets so widespread that not only are you creating resentment everywhere, but you're also making it a little bit easy for yourself to be a target, because you can't be everywhere all the time. And then with Luthen, as far as we know, because there hasn't been no time for all this fan fiction yet, as far as we know, Luthen is the key cog that started not only supplying people and pushing rebellious activity, but he also was a key figure in connecting some people too and bringing some organization to the rebellion. And then, of course, we get Andor, who plays a big part in that in many ways, and then ultimately is able to help deliver the plans about the Death Star, which, again, when you talk about Rogue One, when you talk about Andor, all this, even if you just look at A New Hope, the original trilogy, of course, is told from the perspective of Luke as a hero. And we're all about Luke, and it's the light side, and he's got the Force, and he's the science fiction of it all. But when you got to stop and think about it, even if Luke could have did everything he had to do, if there's no Andor, if there's no, not only getting Mon Mothma out, not only getting the original seed money from Aldhani, but just the plans alone and all those other people that help. If they didn't do that, Luke's not stopping the Death Star. It doesn't matter how much natural connection to the Force he has. He's not stopping the Death Star without those plans. And to even take it further, which I know I was talking crap about the extended universe, but if you want to look at Galen Erso and his whole part of this, had there been no inspiration, had there been no coordination to the rebellion, had there been no push from Luthen, you wouldn't even have a guy like Galen Erso even creating something where you could stop the Death Star. And so that plays into that. Then essentially that just plays out where Luke has his battle, confronts his dad. Obviously the rebellion is still doing their part, and eventually they're able, really at the end of the day, they're able to cut the head off the snake. That's just kind of what it is. You take the Emperor down, Vader goes down as well. There's no more leadership. And again, in the original trilogy, you look at it as, there's no more magical people with dark magical powers, but in reality, there's just no more leadership to carry this thing on. And so the rebellion ends up winning, and they free up the galaxy. So it just reshapes and recontextualizes so much. I don't think there's a Star Wars character that I don't look at differently as a result of Andor. And that in itself, beyond the powerful lines, beyond the amazing episodes, beyond the great acting, the fact that it reshapes all of Star Wars for me it's breathtaking to say that you have something that powerful. Because, and I was thinking about this, let's say if we had the Andor equivalent for the MCU leading up to Endgame, that'd be big, but Endgame was not even 10 years old. You're talking about a property that has been around for decades, been explored for decades, as I said, in all types of ways, legal ways, illegal ways, canon, non-canon, extended universe, video games, comic book. We've dove into Star Wars so much. So the tiny bit of space for something creative and new was going to be an extremely difficult task. But to not only make it creative and new, but to make it the best Star Wars we've ever had, this is the 0.1%. This was darn near impossible. And I know there's the original trilogy, whatever. Look, let me say this, because we talking Star Wars, and I feel real complete in Star Wars. Let me just say, I don't know that I need any more Star Wars in my life after this. That's how strong this is. At least, again, of this saga, but still, in general, I'm good. But, so I'm going to say this, and people get disrespected by anything when it comes to Star Wars, so if you disrespect it, oh well. The original trilogy is not that great. I'm sorry. They're not that great of movies. Like, I'm not saying they're bad, but they're a product of their time. Okay? And even if they were made today, or had like the updated visuals, they were a product of the time. It was made in the 70s. The reason it's huge is because of the lore, the legacy, the characters. Yes, shout out. Not even saying the performances were bad. Shout out to all of them. Great jobs. But at the end of the day, they're not super great movies. The first Star Wars I laid my eyes on, because yes, I'm a prequel baby, but the first Star Wars I laid my eyes on is the original trilogy. Prequels came out, what was it, 01, 2000, something like that? So, I'm like 9 or 10. Up until that point, I've seen the original trilogy over and over. Did I know it all? Like, understand it, comprehend it? No. Do I know the iconic lightsaber, Darth Vader, Luke, I'm your father, all that? Yes. But then at a point, I get older, and I'm like, okay, yeah. I mean, look, come on, 2000s, 99, there's a lot of movies out. Whenever the original trilogy pop up, I'm like, yeah. Now I get old enough to understand it and respect it, but it wasn't until the prequels that solidified what this was all about. And it really gave weight back to the original trilogy. And I'm not saying the prequels are better. I'm just saying, when I say Andor is the best Star Wars thing, I know people immediately, but Empire Strikes Back. Like, yeah, it's cool. It's cool because it was new. It's cool because it was innovative. It was cool because it was cool. It wasn't cool because it was the most elite filmmaking. It just wasn't. For me especially. That's all I gotta say. Now, with that being said, Andor is the best thing ever. As I said, because it lifts the trilogy. The OT. It lifts the prequels. It doesn't really lift the sequels, and that's why I kind of don't even think about them. But still, everything else, I'm trying to make sure I'm right, because I know there's like the Old Republic, there's all that stuff, but I don't know that stuff. So everything I know really essentially starts with episode 1. Yeah, pretty sure. Episode 1. and then through um, the original trilogy. And so everything within that timeline has been lifted up because of Andor for me. And that to me is just an amazing accomplishment to really put weight to the Empire, to humanize it to a certain extent where people could understand. Like, we all understand good versus evil, but that's abstract. This is very defined when we're talking about oppression and fascism. Makes you hate the Empire. My blood been boiling. The things that I would have done to absolutely do any inconvenience to the Empire if I had to live in that world. So, besides all the allegories to real life and stuff, I was about to say something. Oh, and I couldn't help but think, and especially in this second season, could you imagine, and I know this might be weird, but it feels a lot like The Penguin to me. If you watch The Penguin on HBO Max, amazing series, and you just like live in this world for all these episodes, how real it felt, and that's why it was so quality, how real the Penguin felt, and just like this power vacuum, people fighting for territory in Gotham. And the brilliant part about it is if you just close your eyes and imagine you're in this Gotham, or you're with Penguin, or you are Penguin, or you're around whatever, you're around the city, and someone like Batman shows up. Because we're so used to it as, again, just fiction, fantasy, stuff on the TV. But when you get a good show or movie that immerses you into the world, and you close your eyes and really put yourself there for a second, someone like Batman would be terrifying. That would be absolutely terrifying. If this dude lasted more than a month running around in a Batman costume with gadgets and cars and planes, beating up criminals, that would be terrifying. Same thing goes for this. I couldn't help but think, if not even Andor, let's say you Bix. This is what I was thinking yesterday. Let's say you Bix. You on this farm planet, you got the baby, because that was BBY1. Yeah, so like a year, 2 years. Well, I don't know how long the span of the OT is, but let's just say 3 years. 3-4 years later, you there, you got the little kid, you harvesting, you decompressing, you remembering Andor and all the people you lost, and you like really trying to find your emotions and feel what it feels to be free again for all those people that didn't make it, survivors guilt, all that. And then you hear somebody say Luke Skywalker is on the planet, and you gather around the town circle or wherever he is, and you see him walk by, and you see the black robes, you see that lightsaber. This dude, a Jedi, something you've heard of, but it's pretty much fiction to you, a myth. And he is the only one, because now you know Vader is dead, you know the Emperor is dead. He's the only one in the entire galaxy that can wield the Force. Now, she kind of believed in the Force, but even still, you've never seen it. This guy, who obviously it took a whole rebellion to win, but this guy, as far as you know, freed y'all. He would be like Jesus. He would be so mythical. And And again, from the original trilogy, your perspective is this hero journey. And I don't want to disrespect it, but just it's a more cookie cutter type understanding of the hero journey. But from afar, Andor gives you everything from afar. From afar, Luke Skywalker would be a god to that galaxy. You would line up just to touch his robe. Who does that sound like? Even if Superman. And that's why I love the moments in Superman stuff lore where they allowed us to see him the way people might actually see him. Yeah, we love the fun superhero world where it's just Superman, but I like the realism moments. The moments in BVS where people were clamoring to grab his robe or his cape. And I'm thinking about how Luke Skywalker would come across to the world Andor put me in. It would be incredible. Honestly, again, I'm good with Star Wars, but if it was to be something else for Tony Gilroy, that's what I want. I want, and I know there's some, including Mandalorian, but I want something covering the time right after the Empire falls. So if Andor is looking at the rise, almost the peak of the Empire, I want to see what the series is of the Empire being dismantled after the death of Palpatine and Vader. That's what I would like to see. And like I said, and I know it's iffy because people freak out about a recast, but if it was a Luke Skywalker series from his perspective of how the galaxy sees him, it darn it'd be like a Superman. It'd be fire. All right, so anyway, I meant to do this up top, but I forgot. So unfortunately, we're going to end this off with a little bit of criticism because I got to be fair. I have to be fair, especially because things like Andor is what I use and what I hold up whenever there's some type of debate about plot holes in the MCU or other stuff or weak writing or lazy writing, because writing is important to me, and it shows like a penguin, like an Andor, where I can point to that and be like, no, you can do it. If you put the time in, if you put the effort in, if you have the talent, no, it can be done where it's strong. We don't have to, oh, well, it's just Star Wars. No, you can make it strong if you put the time in. So I got to be fair and call out some convenient writing. Now, keep in mind, these are my criticisms, my observations out of a 2-season series. It only boils down to a handful of things. And again, I would label this as convenient writing, not lazy, but convenient. And they all happen in the last 3 episodes of the series. Everything else up until this point, I thoroughly believe is airtight writing. All right, this really is more of just me. Luthen killing Lonnie, it just kind of didn't make sense to me. Now, on one hand, people were like, okay, he killed him because that might be the best thing for his family. If he's dead, they won't really think about his family. That, to me, I'm like, that's not guaranteed. And obviously, if you watch the rest of the episodes, no, that didn't stop them. They knew, they got his logs. They knew what he was looking at. They knew he was the traitor. So his family very much is probably dead or in danger. But at the same time, I get it. You could be like, okay, Luthen knew they was coming for him right now. He didn't have time to get Lonnie and the family out, and he wanted to tie up the loose end. that is consistent with who he is. I agree, that's consistent with who he is, but I just, and the time crunch helps, but I still feel like I don't know about that choice. But that to me isn't any issue with the writing. That was just a choice that I kind of had a question about. This is where it gets real convenient. All right, so the whole sequence of Luthen getting caught didn't make sense to me. It didn't make sense while I was watching it. It was compelling, but it didn't make sense because you knew that they was coming, right? You had the whole argument with Clea. You went there. Number one, well, I guess off top, why couldn't you just put a bomb in there and blow it up? We know they got access to bombs and weapons and all types of stuff. Obviously, Clea just had like 7 bombs at the hospital real quick out of nowhere. So why didn't you just, number one, I almost kind of feel like you would have a self-destruct ready, but even if you didn't, why get caught? Why not just blow the stuff up? Or destroy the radio with the liquid and then blow it up, go out the back? I don't understand. That to me would have made much more sense to the character and to the situation. Okay, you decide you don't got a bomb, whatever, you're gonna do it. The way he destroyed the radio, I didn't understand it when he was doing it. I'm like, put that crap everywhere, completely destroy it. Like, not only are you taking your sweet time, but you completely stop when Dedra comes to the door. You know who's coming to the door. This is more important. I mean, he stopped on a dime and went to answer the door. Bro, finish destroying that radio. And then it comes back later, oh, the radio still works. That's how they found Clea. That's convenient. That's convenient, bro, because you could have really destroyed that radio if you wanted to. You could have dumped 5 of those things on there. You could have shot it. You could have did all types of stuff. Okay, so you didn't do none of that. At least when you get confronted by Dedra, kill her. Why don't you kill her? I don't understand. I thought it was gonna kill. I was like, oh well, they both going out. Kill her, bro. Kill some people before you go. If you like, okay, this is where I die. There's no downside to killing her. Stop her. Kill her. I don't understand. All right, you decide not to kill her. Okay, fine. You worried about taking yourself out. Shoot yourself. Why did you stab yourself? Shoot yourself. The blaster is one shot. You out of there. Quick. People been dying fast this whole series. You stab yourself, so there's a chance you might make it, so they could torture you. And now Clea has to Mission Impossible her way in to kill you. And to me, I'm just like, that's kind of convenient. That's kind of convenient. Luthen, of all people. If I don't even care if it's Luthen, like, but he's supposed to be super smart. Any regular person, like, I'm about to self-sacrifice. Let me do it the most efficient way so they can't get me. That was convenient. All right, moving on. So once we get to the whole radio thing, I was like, wait a minute. So I guess she's using old tech, whatever, blah, blah. We established that. Are there no passcodes? Do they have no code names? No emergency phrases? Nothing? All this time they've been setting all these procedures up. Now the rebellion is in full swing. They got procedures. You mean to tell me Luthen don't have nothing on that radio? Let's call it Morse code, whatever it is. There's no sequence you could have put that Andor would know, okay, it's Clea or Luthen in the old hideaway apartment. Like, there's nothing you could do to be like SOS, because the Empire or ISB, they not intercept really, but the radio picks up the broadcast that Clea's putting out. And my first thought was, okay, that's messed up, but they're not going to know what they're saying. And so I guess the implication was they was using some very traditional Morse code, whatever that version is in Star Wars, that everybody knows. And to me, I'm like, that makes no sense. Y'all didn't have nothing set up. Like nothing. Like even when they get on the comms, the few times they showed us, he was like, is this the weather station or whatever? Hey, it's cloudy tonight. Like code words, passphrases, something. I just regular old Morse code. And I don't want to hear, oh, well, the machine only could do that. They've been using these like the whole time. Like she said, Antor Krieger had one. Y'all couldn't think of no type of sequence. A sequence that if they heard it, so if we had Morse code and the government intercepted a Morse code signal, and they was like, this don't make no sense, this doesn't really make a word or whatever, but we know what it means. Come on, that's just easy. And then the same goes when Cassian is coming in to what is it, Gavin. Like, y'all don't have, first of all, I know you got radios, but still, y'all don't have nothing that person could send so you know it's Cassian, or at least you know it's a friendly. Like, I get it builds up the tension because everybody's on edge and we don't know who to trust, but that to me was convenient, bro. I feel like you could have easily had some system in place where you could identify who is coming there. So there's that. And then the whole thing with Clea, like, I just felt like you would have flooded that building. You know what I mean? You would have absolutely flooded that building. They had a lot of people, but I just feel like when Krennic gives it the way he gives it, plus we know what the information is. It's the Death Star. This is the Holy Grail. I mean, if you look through the OT, there's nothing bigger, figuratively and literally. Maybe trying to turn Luke to the dark side, it might be the only bigger goal, but really it's the Death Star. And so you mean to tell me, after Krennic tells you there's no horizon to your authority, whatever he said, you gotta get her, and y'all found out where she is, and y'all sending a couple people down the hallway? Like, bro, no, absolutely not. And I guess you didn't want to alert her by evacuating the building or nothing. That's fine. But still, or even, I don't know, blow the whole building up. Well, I guess they wanted her alive. I don't know. But still, I just feel like they would have came with way more force than what they did. Like, Krennic built it up so much that I'm like, oh, they about to send the whole entire Coruscant army out there. And they sent like one group, and I'm just like, that didn't make sense to me. That's a little convenient. Cause K2 could body a whole bunch of people, and he did. And I fully believe that part, but I just feel like there would have been more people there. And to that point, I had to ask myself, what is Vader doing? What is Vader doing that is more important than these things connected to the Death Star? I mean, look, I get it. You got Krennic, and you got Tarkin, and you got the Grand Inquisitor, and you got all these levels of bad guys, but Vader's the right-hand man. Like, And I completely understand a hierarchy where like certain things are beneath them. But I just feel like I said the Death Star is the biggest thing. Like if you are trying to take over Gorman, and I mean the Gorman thing I guess was fine. But still, I feel like if something went wrong with Gorman or something like this where this went wrong, whatever, I feel like Vader would have been there. I just feel like Vader would have been there. I don't know. That's kind of how I feel. Because like what else is Vader doing that you can't send him to take care of these very monumental things? That kind of came to my head when they didn't push Clea with all they had. I'm just like certain things I feel like Aldani. I mean Aldani happened. It happened. It was over. They couldn't do anything about it. But after that, the next thing that seemed a little off, I feel like Vader would have been there. That's just me personally. Alright, and then lastly, wouldn't it be very easy to prove what Luthen contributed to the rebellion? There is no scene. I won't say no. I don't know. Honestly, there probably is no scene. And I know that includes the Gorman massacre and everything, but there's no scene that heated me up more than the generals questioning Andor and the information he got because it's Luthen. Like, I get that y'all didn't like him and he rubbed people the wrong way, all that. But to sit here and question what he did for the rebellion is insane. And it just doesn't make sense. With the amount of technology that you got, with the number of people literally at Yavin who were recruited by Luthen. I mean, they brought up the fact that Andor saved Mon Mothma just off the strength of Luthen. He didn't even bring up the fact that Bell's team would have killed her because he had a mole in it. And Luthen is the one that pulled that information out. And so I just feel like what are we talking about? Aldani, the bankroll, Mon was working directly with him. Like I said, her cousin's there. Andor's already vouching for him. But I just feel like even though he wasn't on Yavin, even though he, kind of kept things close to the chest, I think by the time we get to this point, it's very clear. Once you get all these parties together, it's not hard to find out all the things Luthen did to connect the dots. Even Saul Guerrero, I know they don't like him either, but you working with Saul Guerrero, who also worked directly with Luthen. It to me, you could question Luthen and his methods, but to question his integrity or his dedication or contribution to the rebellion, to me that was convenient. It worked. Again, all these scenes work. They're effective. They make me mad, or make me feel what I'm supposed to feel. But to me, all those parts were just convenient to me. That was convenient writing. Now, again, you're talking about 3 episodes out of a 2-season series. You're talking about things that weren't completely weak or bad or plot holes. It was just convenient writing. And if that's the worst thing I can say about Andor, that tells you how elite it is. Alright, so that's it for me, man. I said all the things I had to say. I didn't really have a structure to it or nothing. But man, Andor is the peak of the peak. I guess that's what I will say. And yeah, man, I don't know. I don't know what else to say, but I will leave y'all with some words from my boy Nimic. There's so many things that we could say. Obviously, they replayed part of his manifesto, Also, how did that get leaked out? I don't know if that was the deleted scene or what. That just kind of came out of nowhere. What did he say that I really love? I don't know, but I like the end of it where he says, "The day will come when all these skirmishes and battles, these moments of defiance, will have flooded the banks of the Empire's authority. And then there will be one too many. One single thing will break the siege. Remember this. Try." And that's so powerful because you don't know what the one thing will be. You don't know if it's me deciding to put a flaw in the Death Star, hoping that maybe somebody might find it. You don't know if it's taking the son of Vader, hoping that he could be some type of salvation. You don't know if it's going back to Coruscant to save Clea and Luthen based solely off friendship. You don't know what the one thing is. You don't know if it's a recording when you're getting ready to die that you play to Ferrix to rile them up. You don't know what the one thing is. But you always have to try. Because at some point, there's going to be one thing that breaks the hold on the galaxy. Thank y'all for listening.